But let's begin, as long as there are no questions. All right, so the first example, the first use case that I wanted to kind of dive into is student performance. And so I'm going to throw up the information here that I have cleaned up. Make sure it's pulled. Okay. One of the things that I did, because I want to use this using ChatGPT and not Copilot. If you use Copilot, you're prompted to log in using your MSU Denver credentials, which keeps it housed inside our walled garden, as these things are often called, which basically just means it's safe. It shouldn't leak or be spread outside of the MSU Denver ecosystem when it comes to our data ecosystem and our Microsoft ecosystem. But because I'm going to be using ChatGPT, I wanted to take extra precaution and make sure that any information that I were to plug in there does not somehow get used and fed into the larger publicly available model. As many of you probably know, as we've discussed in these users who use ChatGPT or Claude or Google's Gemini, when you engage with it, all of the questions that you ask it and all of the answers that it provides, unless you go in and you adjust your settings, are going to be used to then kind of retrain its algorithms, its system, and make that particular model better. Should, for some reason, that happened, I just wanted to make sure whatever information I put in to ChatGPT just somehow does not become identifiable. And so, as you can see, I've anonymized all of the student names. I've removed their names and instead given them a letter, and that will allow me, as I'm visualizing this data and messing around with it, to take a peek at things. And so, what we have here is I have these are the grades that I pulled down from Canvas. They're not all complete. I still have some assignments that are left, but I took the grades, and then from Canvas, I also pulled down some additional user engagement data. And so what I want to do here is all documents that have been posted in the chat. Chris, yes, I just got you. I'm going to have Jill add those documents to the chat. She's the one who owns this meeting, and so therefore I can't add anything. But as soon as she's able to share, we'll share those. So as you can see here, I've got several different kind of data points, and what I want to do is I just want to mess around with this particular data and help me understand it a little bit. So the first place to start after you've prepared that is to just upload it here into ChatGPT or Copilot. And it's going to take a second, and it's going to analyze it, and then it'll prepare for conversation. I don't need to visualize anything. That's fine. Okay. I've noticed that ChatGPT has been acting a little wonky as of late. One of the things as it's analyzing that I want to point out is that each one of these column headers, I've given a very clear title. For many of you who have worked in data science, you know that when it comes to Excel or .csv files, those titles for columns might have a very kind of specific, almost computational title. What I began to see and to learn, and that I'm changing in terms of the spreadsheets that I'm using, is that I'm giving very clear natural language titles to these. I'm taking advantage of the ability for these models to speak non-computer language, no zeros, no ones. I'm just saying, here's what it is, here's what these numbers mean, and thus far it's been very good at understanding those, okay? All right, so it's got a pretty good understanding of what's in there, perfect. All right, now, I want to see, let's see, show students with missing discussion scores. So let's not do that. I'm going to give this prompt. So in column, let me take a peek here. Let's look at page views. Column AM is page views, i.e. the amount of views each student has performed in the Canvas course. Do you see a correlation between page views and the overall grade in column AH. So in this case, it's given me ideally a statistically valid correlation. As you can see, that number is 0.46. It indicates a moderate positive relationship, which suggests that page views, the more students that are in there engaging with the course content, the better their performance in terms of the overall grade. Now, what I want to do is I want to ask how it got there, right? So if you're interested in kind of digging a little bit deeper to figure out how did the AI come to that answer, let's see. So for you data wonks out there, obviously you're going to probably want to dig a lot deeper on this if you're using it for some academic research or some sort of external communication. But at the instructor level, at the course level, for me, there's enough information here that I feel comfortable in being able to say that that information is reliable and I can trust it. Okay. And again, it's clean data. So I know what's going in. The inputs are clean. So the outputs ideally would be clean. Now, let's see. I guess we'll just click this button. Let's visualize it. Okay. And feel free to jump in with questions too while this is working. Again, sometimes these things work really fast and sometimes they don't. Today it's a little slow. So we've got a nice plotting here showing, somewhat of a correlation for those of you who understand data science and statistics much better than me. You can begin to see, though, that there is what we might call a relatively positive correlation between, again, the amount of time that a student or the amount of interactions that a student is having with the content in the course and their actual grade, which is not at all shocking. Now let's see, can you analyze participations versus grades? Let's see what happens there. I don't have to go with these kind of shortcuts. I'm just clicking on these in order to expedite the visualization for all of you. But let's see, the correlation with participants and total points is approximately indicating a moderately strong positive relationship. This suggests that students with higher participation levels tend to have higher grades more consistently than those with higher page scores. That makes total sense. All right. Okay. How about, let's see, do you see areas where assignments let's see. Anybody got a better question? Actually, let's just, I'm just going to, yes, please visualize.
Hey, Sam, this is Kwang.
Yes.
So you basically clean the data and upload it and have the GPT kind of answer your question based upon what you directed. Is there an AI that is connected directly to the Excel functionality where you can actually work on it through the Excel?
Yes, Kwang, that would be Copilot.
Okay.
Yes. So I don't know if Mike's on this call. He might be. That would be a conversation that we need to have with ITS. But
I see.
To kind of give everybody some background, I think in conversations that Kevin and Taylor and I have had, the investment that MSU Denver would need to make to get everybody access to Copilot across all of our applications would be pretty significant, and in terms of a financial investment. And, to see the ROI for that, everybody, to kind of see it worth the multi-million dollars that would be required, we really need everybody using this, right? So Kwong would use it on a daily basis, but to justify it, I think to everybody, there'd have to be 100 or 5,000 Kwongs who are using it for Excel. So that's why Kwong, I think, for us at MSU Denver, and this is probably, this appears to be where a lot of higher education is going when I talk to folks and I look at usage. We are able to do what needs to be done using Microsoft Copilot, the chat version. It's able to do what we need. Yes, it's not built into the application. It's not built into Excel, so you can do those things inside Excel. But all of those functions, all of the visualizations, all of the leveraging of generative AI, it happens inside of the Copilot chatbot version. And so that's a really good question, really good point. It's just one of those things, at the moment, I'm not sure that the investment is going to produce the added value. It would be different, right? If we were a financial advising organization, if we were IMG or Deloitte or something, that would make sense. But we're not, right? We're a university, and so that's a good question.
Thanks for the clarification.
Of course. Casey Coburn asks, Sam, I often download EDW data and then prep it for repeating reports in MS Excel or Power BI query. This allows me to drop next month's report data into from EDW into the query. Can you theoretically skip the query build to get the prep data? That's a wonderful question, Casey. I think that will be a future workshop. So what Casey's really asking everybody is can we automate the collection of data, clean data, and allow it to automatically be added, let's say, as a column into a spreadsheet? And the answer is yes, but it will take some tinkering inside of the Microsoft Power Automate tool. And one of these days in spring, we can all dive into that and have a workshop on that and talk about automation, because automation is another component of advanced artificial intelligence. And so, yes, Casey, you can do it. It's just one of those things that you, as an individual user, would have to kind of tinker around and figure out on your own at the moment. Ideally, when we get a few months ahead here, I'll be able to showcase that for everybody and how to do that. But that is possible, yes. And again, that's why I really trust the work being done by Dr. Ribble and her team to clean the data and prepare it for this kind of stuff. And so, those of you on here who might be, I think Jeff's on here, our deputy provost. We have deans on here. We have chairs. The data access that you have is going to be different depending upon what your position is. But all of the things that I'm demonstrating here can be done by any of us. It just depends on what data we have access to. And so that's why we're starting this particular demonstration at a small scale. This is the data that I'm taking from my individual Canvas course and attempting to make sense of it. Okay. But that's a really good question. Yes. And this is where I think as we become a smarter university when it comes to generative AI and artificial intelligence in general, and we're getting there, the kinds of solutions that Casey really points out are solutions that we'll be able to develop and launch at our department level, at our division level, and ideally at the university level. So that's a really good question and a fantastic point. Yes. Let's see. Can you analyze participation versus? I don't have let's see what that is. I do have some participation. There's more data that I could have pulled from Canvas, but I wanted to keep things as simple as possible just for right now. Okay, so that's showing, again, another relatively strong relationship. One thing before we move on to the next data set that I wanted to show is that, let's say, you get a visualization of data and it's really useful and helpful. And maybe I know Phil's on the call from School of Education. He wants to present it to his department in SOE and maybe throw it up on a slide deck. What's really cool about this is that you can actually adjust the colors of the data visualization if you wanted it to meet, let's say, brand standards. So I'm going to see real quick if it's able to scan the web to figure out what our MSU Denver brand standards are. But if not, I'll have to add those colors. So let's see, recreate that chart using MSU Denver brand color standards. Oh, it's going to want to do that. Let's see. I may just have to. Okay, so use. Let's see if it does it. One of the things too, I think, as this is happening, Casey brought up that automation. There we go. Okay, perfect. So we've got our brand colors. That's awesome. If you're working, if you're a part of a department of a unit that is active inside the Microsoft ecosystem, if you have a SharePoint that is really fleshed out and clear, and all of your documents and your data's in there, the kinds of automation that Casey brought up that require EDW integration can be done without having to turn to EDW, right? So my point being here, if you are tracking data, whether it be about student performance or whether it be about course fill rates or whether it be about what employees are doing and who's completed their performance review or any of that fun stuff, if that is the kind of data that you're tracking inside a SharePoint or OneDrive, if it's your own personal or personal professional account, there are ways inside of Microsoft Power Automate to actually connect those components and allow it to automatically do the kind of analysis that we're doing here. One of the things, for example, that I'm working on is how do we export the questions that get asked to? We're currently working on a curriculum chatbot inside of Microsoft Copilot Studio. So how do we automate the collection of all of those queries, all of those questions? And then how do we pull those into an Excel spreadsheet that's housed inside SharePoint? And then how do we the next step would be automate an analysis of the questions in order to see what kind of questions are being asked. Are there trends? Are there pain points? And then automatically send an email to Erica Buckland or to Sean Schaefer, so that way they can see, depending upon how often they want to know or get that report, they can see what are the problems, the pain points, some of the ongoing issues or questions that come about when it comes to curriculum. And so this is the kind of stuff that can be done. It just takes some time to figure out and how to put those pieces together. And so I would really encourage all of you, though, if this is of interest to you, to start getting in there and messing around and seeing how you might create these kinds of automations using the different Microsoft applications. Again, because we are inside the Microsoft ecosystem in that environment, the data sharing and the data privacy is one of those things that we can expect, which is fantastic. So this gives you an idea here. Let me see. Let's connect. One more thing. Create a bar graph. I want to see of students' names and number of page views. Let me see what that does. All right, awesome. As you can see, I think for most of us, if you're not data savvy, this allows us to translate some of that information that might be kept in Excel spreadsheets and databases and translate it into a way that others can really understand, including ourselves, right? So it's much easier for me here when I look at that to see, oh, here are the problem areas, right? Or here are the students potentially that I would want to reach out to and have some thoughtful conversations with. And this becomes extremely important when it comes to the areas of teaching and learning, and as an educator, to be able to see where these potential interventions might have the most value. And so, yes, this example is for teaching and learning, but I could also see somebody in HR, and I know Jazz is on here, there's some other folks. What is the kind of data that's being collected there in terms of how often does an employee, let's say, check their paycheck stub, or how often do they get into Workday and mess around and try to figure out the spend authorization process, right? These are the kinds of things that can be pulled down to really help us understand what the user experience is and how we as individuals in specific departments might engage better with our users. Which leads me to a really, hopefully, helpful next example, which would be what I'm doing, what I attempted to do this semester is I'm trying to gather student feedback about my course in real time. So I have a few surveys that go out over the course of the semester, and I'm trying to get feedback from my students that allow me to make changes during the course of the semester that will ideally help with our students and help my students be more successful in the course. And so, for example, let me see if I can pull this up. So we have, I think this is it. Awesome. So what this is I sent out a survey at the midpoint of the semester, and I had my students, fill it out. I gave everybody extra credit for doing it, and I was very clear that what I'm trying to get from you is honest feedback about the course and what are those areas that maybe we can improve upon in order to help them better understand the content of that course. And so these are the questions, as I mentioned with the previous example, the headers for my columns are very clear. I'm using natural language. And I'll take a quick pause and say that anybody who feels more comfortable using another language other than English to do this kind of thing, please know that both Copilot and ChatGPT will communicate and have these same conversations in Spanish, in Portuguese, in French, in Chinese, in Mandarin, anything that you would need if you feel like that will help you retain the knowledge and gain more from the experience. Feel free to mess around with those languages, okay? So as you can see, very, very specific questions about course content. I've got a question in there. We're doing some chatbot experimentation in the class. In spring, I'll show all of you how to do this when I get some time. But I've created custom chatbots for each of the student readings. And rather than having a chatbot that just provides answers to students, what does Foucault say about power in 17th century French prisons? I have trained the chatbot to, instead of just providing very kind of cut and dry answers to students, to trigger student thinking, student engagement through the kinds of questions that are asked. And so student asks the questions for some clarity. The question that comes back from the chatbot is not simply just the answer, but rather a trigger or a nudge towards engaging a little bit more deeply with the reading. And thus far, students are really appreciating that. It's allowing them to grapple with the complexity of some of this stuff. So now what I want to do, though, is I want to kind of drop this in and do some analysis there. Okay. So I'm going to close this one out. What was the main takeaway? And I'm kind of showing you my pedagogical limitations by showing you the feedback here. I'm guessing the two students who said it was unclear are the ones who never show up to class, but we'll see. I can't know that. Okay. How about the second question? Okay, so that's decent. Now it's going to actually do a sentiment analysis, right? So it's looking for positive and negative answers. Could be in the Likert type scale of 1 to 5. How do you feel about this? And it's also going to look hopefully at the qualitative answers, the long questions. All right, so I've displayed the table. This provides an overview of student sentiment across clarity, confidence. Okay. What would you tell me I need to know from this data as the professor of the course? Okay. So as you can see, right, I think this is something that really stands out to me is that while most of the students feel very well supported or supported, there are some that are kind of on the margins that I as a professor should reach out to and be more thoughtful in my intervention with those students. That's not to say that those that feel supported, that are getting what they need from me, can be just left alone. That's not what I'm saying. But me as a professor, because this information is so specific to my particular course, I would want to think about what are the ways that I can spend some additional energy and some additional effort to reaching out to all students, but in particular to kind of those students. I know I can't really tell it, but how might I frame my message to all of the students to say, if you are in need of additional consultation, please feel free to reach out to me, and we'll have some conversations. Okay. Janelle asked, have you trained your ChatGPT on with literature on pedagogy? I haven't, Janelle, but I've got an idea. So let's see. Okay. In terms of number 5, as pretend, let's see, assume you are a expert on pedagogy in higher education. How should I address that problem or weakness? So I think to tie into this response and the question I asked with Janelle's comment, what is we talked about in the prompt engineering workshop last month, how you ask the question from these things and the information you provide in the question will help narrow down the outputs and help the outputs become more valuable. And so in this case, by saying, pretend you are a scholar of pedagogy in higher education, then basically what that means is this model is now going to narrow down its output to only information that it has access to that might be flagged or understood as information that is coming from a source on pedagogy, a revered or credible source on pedagogy. Okay. Now, that takes more work for the user. Obviously, I'm the one who has to set these parameters, but that's why understanding how to write the prompt, how to ask the question is extremely important as you begin engaging with these tools, particularly when it comes to data analysis. Okay, so great question. Thank you, Janelle. That's fantastic. Yeah, so it has read specific pieces to serve as lenses. Yes, so I think what Janelle, and you may or may not be saying this, but I think what you could potentially do is take this another level deeper, and I see Graham responded to that. Let's say I were to say, I am a professor of Spanish, and I teach undergraduate students at all levels. If I wanted to address the issues of concern in number 5, how might you answer them if you were an expert in teaching foreign language at the higher education level? And then I would begin to get really specific and granular answers about exactly how to deal with those situations where students don't feel supported, but within, in this case, a foreign languages course. Okay, so I think you can always add this additional level of either complexity or filtration to that. You can really, I mean, prompts can range from, one sentence to prompts that are 4, 5, 6,000 words long. They can get really, really long. I mean, one of the things to help you wrap your head around what's going on here is that, we have this model, this tool, this complexity of algorithms and instructions and all of that previously required formulas and codes, a really kind of high level of expertise in computer science to get these models to produce the outputs that we needed from them. But as natural language processing, generative AI, all of these different manifestations of artificial intelligence were built into now this kind of one-stop shop, or the general artificial intelligence model. Now I can use how I speak in human language to ask the tool to do what I want it to do. So the instructions, you're still instructing it. It's just how you're instructing it is different. So that's what makes, I think, this moment very unique and exciting, is because now certain technical, super technical, super advanced knowledge bases, resources such as large language models are now accessible to many more of us, as long as we know how to ask the right questions. So thank you both. That was great. I want to move on now to the next example, which is our SRIs. Okay, so I'm going to use my SRIs, my student ratings of instruction here, but I want to show you a couple of steps to ideally take some value from your student ratings of instruction that maybe you aren't. I'm going to be totally transparent and say that when I thought about this particular example and showing you how to do it, I thought about those of you who are going up for review, right? So those faculty members who are going up for tenure, or, I guess you've already submitted your tenure and promotion, but some of you are about to submit your post-tenure review portfolio. And so how might you use these tools to give you the talking points to include in your annotated CV, or to add into your narrative, to basically kind of frame and structure your argument, in this case, for teaching excellence? Okay. So what do I have to show you? I'll pull up that document and I'll throw it over here on the screen. Make sure that, okay, cool. So a couple of steps here. All right. Make sure I do this correctly. Sample SRIs. So I'm going to add, open this up. So these are my SRIs. As you know, if you get into Watermark and you export your student ratings of instruction, you are given the only option is to produce a Word document. Now, I'm not saying that if I just uploaded this Word document into ChatGPT or Copilot, it wouldn't be able to analyze it, but I want to be able to kind of move it over into a format that I can ensure reliability and data validity. And so let's see if I can do this. So I'm not going to, this is like a cooking show, right? Here's the ingredient. Now I'm going to show you the finished product. So I plugged that in. I added this document and I said, let me see what can you take the information and organize it into a downloadable CSV file, right? So here's I'll throw this in so you all can see it, right? So I added the Word document and then I gave it this instructions, okay? I won't show you and waste your time, but the output then was, make sure this is right, this, okay? So it organized everything nice for me. I've got a .csv file that I then made into an Excel spreadsheet, and I have the kind of detailed information that I need. Now, what I did, because I wanted to add, I wanted all of the student information, all of the SRIs and student comments to be in one document that I would then plug into ChatGPT, and I'll do that here in a second. I took my student comments and I wanted to allow, I wanted to use ChatGPT to transfer those from the PDF that they're currently offered to us as faculty members. So those of you who are unaware, who, have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. We go into Watermark, we produce our SRI report, our student ratings of instruction report, depending upon what semesters we want. And then we get a report, but in that report, it has hyperlinks, and you click on that hyperlink, and that's where you get the student comments. Let me see if I can kind of show you. There we go. They come like this. Okay. Now, what I want to be able to do, though, is to take those comments, put them into the same Excel spreadsheet, so that way, ideally, the work that is necessary for ChatGPT and the model to make sense of all of the different pieces is a little bit less. Hopefully, the computer power necessary is a little bit less. Okay. So what I did is I took this document, and I gave it the instructions, and I basically said, can you please put this into a .csv file that I can copy and paste into Excel? And that's what I did, right? So produced another file, I downloaded it, opened it, and then I copied and pasted all these different elements here, okay? So now what I want to do is I want to try to make some sense of my SRIs. So I'm going to add this in here. Not that one. Where are you? Okay. Can we now investigate this data? So I'm going to see, all right, can you chart the changes in, let's see, question 1. In COM 1010 courses from fall 2020 to spring, or this is summer 20. Oh shoot, we didn't do it. No, that's fine. Should be able to figure it out. It was my last semester. Summer to fall 2018 to fall 2020. So COM 1010, for those of you who don't know, it's public speaking. I taught a lot of those. I already looked at this, and it's pretty interesting because COVID was not great to my SRIs. That's not very valuable. It's because I don't have enough semesters in there. Dang. This is not great for me. I'm sorry. I have not taught enough in the last 3 years to have useful visualizations. So instead, I suppose let's look at just the student comments. What trends do you see in student comments from COM 1010? Okay. Now, there's some clear areas. So let's think about practicality of this and application. If, again, Philip Bernhardt's on the call, so I'm going to pick on Phil because we've been talking about his PTR application. If I'm Phil and I'm trying to figure out, all right, what are the key areas that I've been successful during my probationary period when it comes to teaching? And I have in this output some very clear examples of where I've had some success. Accessibility, responsiveness, feedback is good, interactions with students is good. And then, as we do with our faculty reviews, we always like to talk about areas that we can improve. And for those of you who are doing performance reviews, those staff members, same kind of thing. And so here I have some very clear areas that I can improve upon too. And so what I've done by using this particular data is I have, used the computational power of ChatGPT to expedite the analysis process and get me to a point where I have some very clear areas that I can improve upon and some very clear areas where I have some wins. And so it makes the information that is in our SRIs more conversational. I think many of us who are in the classroom, we don't necessarily look at that stuff until we have to. But I think what this allows is, in the same way that the kind of mid-semester feedback, it allows us to gain live insight or real-time insight, and to gather that feedback from our students and then implement it and integrate it in ways that I think go beyond just best practices that maybe we read in an academic journal article. Now I'm getting it directly from my students, and I can make those changes and make those improvements. I think that for those staff members that are on the call, I think the same use cases exist for you as well. I think in something that Dr. Klyer and I have been talking a lot about in faculty affairs is just the insane amount of qualitative data that we have. We have our campus climate survey. We have dean and chair and staff evaluations. Oftentimes we only look at the bar charts and the graphs of this kind of stuff, but there's so much information that is rich when it comes to the comments that are left in these surveys. But they just kind of stand there. We don't mess around with them. We don't attempt to understand them, but we should be using and leveraging these tools to help us understand what messaging, what trends, what information, what deliverables, or excuse me, what outputs might be valuable that exist in that data. And so I want to show you exactly kind of what I mean by that with a bigger data set here in just a moment. But how are we feeling, everybody? Do we have any kind of questions? Good, Janelle. I like that you like that. Kwong, I'm going to show you one cool thing. Kwong asked, can ChatGPT convert Word document contents to a PowerPoint presentation? Absolutely, but let's just do it here. Take those 5 points and create a PowerPoint slide deck. One slide per point. Now, it may not, let's see what it says. It'll probably just give me the content that I would then just copy and paste into PowerPoint, but we'll see. Oh, dang. See, that's a new feature. I didn't even know I could do that. So let's see. For those of you who do have chat, yeah, go ahead.
Sweet, awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, calm. For those of you who pay for ChatGPT, if you're one of those wonks like me, yesterday, okay. Oh my God, it even matched our colors. Okay. Now, as a public speaking professor, and I see Elizabeth Kleinfeld's on here too as a writing instructor, I'd want to clean this up a little bit, but it's a pretty good start. So at least I have a place to start. So it's always a good kind of first draft to get you going. So that's cool. All right, I'm going to reset the chat here just so we can kind of start from scratch. Just so you know, when you have one chat, so as you can see, I have not changed or closed this window. And so by maintaining the conversation, not starting over, the chatbot is keeping context, right? It's keeping a history of what we've been discussing. That's fine for the most part. Like I have one particular chat that is all about my course, right? So it's all about rhetoric and public culture. And I always go back to that when I'm designing assignments, when I'm designing rubrics, when I'm getting some assistance on providing some useful student feedback. So I'll go back to it because it maintains the history, right? It's got the computer itself has awareness, not human awareness, right? But data awareness that it's pulling from that. But in this case, I want to kind of start from scratch because we're going to throw in a relatively large data set to start manipulating and messing around with. All right, so the next one, this is, all right, cool. In spring, the Office of Faculty Affairs, in collaboration with our data team put out a survey about, faculty wants and needs. We wanted to get as much feedback as possible to help us understand what kind of support we can provide our faculty. What are the areas where we can get some quick wins? What are some areas where we're going to need some more, investment, whether that be in terms of time or financial resources? But we sent out the survey, but to Kelly and Buffy were able to visualize a lot of what we needed, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here. I have to pull it up. Let me see. Do I have the PDF? Give me one sec. So, we get this report from their team, and there's a lot of useful information. Don't get me wrong, it's great. And I think that team would second what I'm about to say, which is there's a lot of useful value in all of this stuff, right? Which is all of the comments that are made. And for us to go through and to read all of those obviously takes a significant amount of time, but neither one of us, Kath's a biologist, I'm a rhetorician, so I think going through and actually doing a sentiment analysis of this would take a certain level of expertise that we just don't have, because that is not our academic background. But with the use of ChatGPT or Copilot, we can now do that with that tool. And so that's what I want to do here. Okay, so let's see. Plug that in. It's going to take a second to look at that. Okay. Janelle asked, no hurry, but at some point, can you please address the pros and cons of adjusting the privacy settings once our data is clean? Yeah, I mean, the privacy setting, so again, in Copilot, if you're using it inside of the Microsoft ecosystem, which it will look like this. Okay, so I'm not logged in, all right, but it'll prompt me. I'll show you kind of what I have to do here. It's going to prompt me to go and log in, and it'll probably oh, nope, I'm already signed in, so I'm fine. Go to Copilot for work. All right, sweet. So I've gone through the steps, Janelle, and I'm now inside of MSU Denver's walled garden. All right, so I'm safe. Whatever I put in there, whatever comes out, does not leave our data environment. Okay, does not leave our Microsoft environment. But that is not the same level of security that I would get that's not the same. I would not get that same security if I was using ChatGPT, particularly the free version of ChatGPT, right? So if you pay for it, and again, you don't feel like you have to pay for it. I think Copilot, the free version that we have, does exactly what you would need it to do. Okay, but for me, since I pay for it, I can come in here and I can do data controls, and I can hit this box that improve the model for everyone, on or off. And I've shut it off, which basically means that I don't want, OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, has told me that my inputs and the outputs won't get then fed into the larger model. So I kind of take that for granted and assume that's the truth. But I'm also kind of covering my bum a little bit by making sure that the information that I'm putting in there is not identifiable. In fact, this particular spreadsheet that I uploaded, I removed any reference to MSU Denver because I didn't want the bot itself or the model itself to somehow take whatever this information is and attribute it directly to our university. I didn't want that. So I removed it. I went through and cleaned that data. And so, if you are taking this approach and you would like to use these tools, find those ways to anonymize the data, as I did in that first spreadsheet that I showed, where rather than student names, I gave a student a letter, right? A, B, C, D, all the way down to Q. And then, outside of ChatGPT, in the spreadsheet that I'm actually looking at, the data that I'm kind of not plugging into that, I know who student A is, I know who student B is, I know who student C is. Okay. I forgot one more thing about that. I think folks are probably concerned about students using generative AI. I'm experimenting a bit over the course of the semester with adjusting the assignment content to see what kind of ratings Turnitin, which is built into Canvas, gives to student content. But there's also this really cool resource that I discovered this week called Sapling AI. And I feel like I don't want to give away kind of plagiarism detectors too much because I've got a complicated relationship with this stuff. But this is a really interesting tool in that it pulls all of the different I guess, standard ways of outputting answers that all of the different models do, right? So Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT, there's just a way that high processing compute can say that answer sounds like something that would come from ChatGPT, or that answer sounds like something that would come from Claude. And so I'm plugging in the student work here, right? I'm eliminating any kind of problematic information. I've shared this with my students. They've allowed me to do it. But I'm tracking then what is the kind of percentage of plagiarization that is coming from Turnitin or whatever the tool is inside of Canvas, and then what's here. And then I'm tracking over time as I just adjust the assignments a little bit and make them more and more specific to the student, what happens when it comes to plagiarism. And I will tell you, everybody, I've seen a massive drop since the second month of the semester to now. So the discussion posts, they had started really general. I didn't put a lot of thought into them, but now they're so specific that a student who wants to answer a question about, let's say, how did Kenneth Burke's theory of rhetorical forms impact your conversation that you had with a loved one today? That is so specific that whatever output, if they were to plug that into ChatGPT, it would be so general, so bland, and so boring that it would have no value whatsoever, even for the student. The student would say that and be like, that's not my voice. And so I've actually seen a rather precipitous drop in the use of these plagiarism, or in the use of these generative AI to produce student content. So just something to think about, and I'll continue to kind of collect this data and ideally kind of share it with everybody. But to no shock, and this was an idea from our faculty senate president, Liz Goodnick. She's been doing the same thing for a few semesters, is to take the theoretical things, the high level things that we're teaching in class, and then kind of nudge our students towards applying them in very specific ways to their lived experiences. And in doing that, you're almost making using these tools pointless. They don't get value from it. And I get excited about that because I think that's exactly what we want. We want our students to apply the knowledge that we're giving them. Okay, so that's that tool. So let me go back to, okay, so let's start looking at this data. Let's see. What are some, I'm going to pull this. So sorry, CTLD folks. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here. Let's see who's not in this. You know what? I love my friends in IT, so let's do that. How do you support professional development goals? Yeah, let's try that. So this is just general kind of, what is the sentiment analysis of that column? Okay, so not really much there, actually. What about, let's see. How likely are you to take advantage of this? So faculty on the call, let's kind of air our dirty laundry here and see what you think. Okay, what would you say the sentiment is on this? I didn't spell that correctly. Let's see if we can figure it out. Kwong asks, is there a way to store or archive meeting minutes to leverage AI to generate summary or key searches of context ongoing? Yes. That's something I think that I need to do during the break. But there is a way to basically take the transcripts from a team chat, a team meeting, use generative AI, Copilot in this case, to summarize them and then get an automated report that will go to you as a user, so that way you know what were the key points of that meeting. I know some of you out there are using MeetGeek to do this already. Some of you using Read AI. I know there were some comments in the chat earlier about whether or not ITS wants us to do that. I will say that you can do that inside Teams. There's just a little bit of a additional step or two that you have to do to automate that, but it's possible. So Kwong, maybe one of these days we sit down and I kind of show you how to do that, but that's very possible. Summarize. All right, cool. All right, so now I'm getting some useful feedback from people about this. Okay. Mixed interest, mild disinterest. So for us in the Office of Faculty Affairs, I mean, the question is really, would a lot of you really take advantage of yoga classes and well-being courses and all of that? And if this was, at the highest level, hell yes, we all want to do this. That's an area where we'd want to put some attention and some effort. But at the moment, right, we're just I think hopefully that those resources are there, but in terms of what we want to divert or turn our attention to, this is helping us make a decision about next steps. So that's some good insight there. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see what my other data is. All right. The average system is close to neutral, indicating that faculty feel the technology available is adequate. That's good. Okay, so congrats, ITS. You're good. For the last 25, 30 minutes here, what I want to do is we're going to go through some sample data sets as a group. I'm going to have to email you. I don't think Jill is on the call. She's not. Okay. Everybody that's on here, I'm going to email you two files. And to those of you who aren't on the call who are going to get this email anyways, I'm sorry. But what I want you to do, oh, you are. Hey, Jill. Okay. Jill, can you do me a favor and add the files that I'm sending you to this chat? That would be great. So we've got a couple of what Jill will be adding here in a second is I created some synthetic data sets. One is some random data about what was the best what is your ideal vacation, and then what did a vacation look like when you were a kid? And then we have some ages. I think we have some genders in there as well. And then the other one is some synthetic social media data. It's reminiscent, or it replicates or looks like the kind of information that if you're a social media manager or if you're a communications person for your department, for your college, you could pull down from Facebook or from Meta to start analyzing. And so I wanted to provide those to you, all of you, so you can start messing around a little bit. So what I'm going to do first, as Jill's downloading those and providing those to the chat, is I'll add the first one, which would be think about this more as kind of qualitative interview type responses that maybe somebody in psychological sciences would have, or somebody in HR would get, or somebody who's running a survey might get in terms of responses. And we want to begin to do some sentiment analysis and understand those outputs a little bit more. Okay, so feel free to jump in and mess around a little bit as I'm going through and demonstrating some different use cases. So again, this is going to be the synthetic vacation data. Okay. And feel free to upload it and start screwing around with it and see kind of what kind of answers you might get. Okay. All right. So Jill's going to do it. Okay. Is any correlation between descriptions of the ideal vacation and the memories of vacations? All right, so it's explaining here exactly kind of the steps it's going to take. See if there's some themes that stand out across those two. Okay, so, oh, whoops, shoot. All right, now I'm going to ask it. Oh, did I lose it all? Dang it. I think I did. Let me see here. No. There's no reason why any of these things make sense, by the way. This is all synthetic data. So let's see, what about correlations in childhood vacations? I'm asking it, do you see similarities across these two? Okay. All right. See, that's the kind of stuff I think that even if this is fake information, it's useful, right? So talking about respondents who are discussing their ideal vacation, mentioning things like camping, national parks, and things outdoors, and then that comes back again in this case in ideal vacations and childhood vacations. Okay, cultural exploration. All right, cool. I'm gonna throw this other example in there because I want to show a little more visualization, and then we can do some Q&A. Okay. So as mentioned, this is the synthetic social media data. And I think what I want to do is, let me show you what's in there actually, so you can see it. So this is just, what we're doing here is a bunch of dates for different posts that were, in this case, I had given ChatGPT the request to create synthetic data for Facebook posts. So I've got a date. I wanted to know the caption. I wanted to know the hashtag, where the hashtag's included, then total views, and then total engagements, right? So Facebook posts, how many people actually see it versus how many people actually engage with the post. So let's see what we see there. Is there a correlation between hashtags used and post engagement. I think for many of you data scientists, social scientists out there, this transparency about how the model is producing the output is a new feature. It's one of those things. I think that there was just so much pushback by users and the public, not knowing how these answers were achieved, that OpenAI has kind of designed it into their system. These are positive correlation with engagement. Okay, so all right, don't take this as truth, anybody. This is all fake data, so don't think like all of a sudden you need to be doing this in your social media posts. Okay, I guess people don't love community in this fake data. Which hashtags had the highest engagement? Can you chart the engagement numbers against post dates in a do the same, but just for okay. It's funny. I did this yesterday for UMC, but with real data, and it did not look like this. It was for a whiskey brand, and whiskey sells more in cold months, and you could see it in terms of engagement, which makes total sense. Yeah, Janelle, good question. What type chart? It's pretty cool. Wow.